Good morning, everyone. We are live. So, happy Thursday, everyone. Hope you've all got your coffee and go for a nice little brown ensemble here. I reckon I need to get someone start sponsoring me some mugs. Let's see who's going to send in some mugs. I hope everyone's been good. I was giving a talk last night in Kilkenny, my first ever time in Kilkenny, and it was great. It was a lovely drive down. Apart from the roadworks. But it was really, really enjoyable talking to parents about how they can help their children's education. So maybe we'll do something like that next week or the following week. We had nothing last week because I was playing daddy at a meeting in the school, which is really, really good. So I'm also recording it on this as well. So I'm going to put the video up on our Happy to Parent YouTube channel as well. So you'll be able to watch it back there as well. We'll see how it goes. So let's see. Let's try and get into it. So we've got a few questions sent in, which is great. As always, we really appreciate people taking the time to send in questions and, look for support, because sometimes we don't want the world to know that we need a little bit of help. But sometimes all we need is little tweaks at home. Sometimes we don't need to be making drastic changes, and although we can feel like there's a tidal wave of pressure and stress with being parents and working and having to pay bills and stuff like that, sometimes we don't need to always be spreading that around with everybody. So I've had contact from some people saying they just want to make little changes that can actually have a big impact. So look, let's dive right in. And a nice, apparently easy one. Our children really want a dog, and we are seriously considering it. What steps can we put in place now before the puppy arrives to teach the children about their responsibilities for the care of it? It would be their first pet, and we feel they could learn a lot from the experience if we can get the responsibility aspect right without affecting the excitement of having a puppy in the house. Well, I'm a big dog lover, so I'm all for people getting puppies. So I suppose a lot will depend on how old your children are. So if you've got teenagers, obviously they can take on a lot more responsibility, or preteens, they can take on a lot more responsibility when it comes to looking after the dog. If they're younger, maybe there's less so responsibility on them, but that doesn't mean that they can't help out. I suppose what you can do from the start is talk about how this puppy is actually a family pet. It's not just mum's pet or mum and dad's pet, it's the family's pet. So everybody has to do their bit to make sure that the puppy is okay. But it's important to have the conversations around, okay, we've got this little puppy coming in. It's not going to be maybe the same as other dogs that they've experienced. So they might have aunts, uncles, friends, grandparents who have pets. And those dogs are older, more trained, whatever it might be. So it's important that you have them realise what to expect. So it's going to be a very giddy little puppy coming in, might chew furniture, might chew shoes, all that kind of stuff, might even nip at little kids. So it's important that you ensure that their expectations are realistic. But then you can talk about, okay, well, this is what we need you to do. We need you to take the dog for little walks, clean up the muck that's left after the dog, and help to train it. So, but also talking about the practical things like treats and stuff like that. It's funny, I've only just discovered in the last few months that you shouldn't give grapes and stuff to dogs. Grapes and raisins apparently are exceptionally dangerous for dogs. I didn't know that. I don't give raisins to our dog, but it's good to know that sort of thing. So I suppose think about what are the things that you guys are going to do. So realistically, as a parent, you're probably going to be the one who's going to do a lot of the looking after, a lot of maybe the grooming, but you can get the kids involved in helping out all that so that they really feel a sense of responsibility. But at the same time, it's meant to be fun. It's meant to be enjoyable. It's meant to be an exciting time. So, I don't think you'll be able to dampen their excitement about getting a puppy. If you say that you're getting a puppy, they're going to be super excited. I hope that helps. Okay, let's see, we've got another one here. Our parents mind our children a couple of days a week while we're at work. We are really trying to stick to a healthy diet during the week, with treats for the weekend or special occasions. We are aware that our parents are treating our kids when they are with them with chocolate, sweets, cakes, etc. We don't want to argue with our parents over the treats or expect our children to say no to their grandparents, but we feel that it's a problem every time they are with them. We know it would not be an issue if they only looked after them occasionally, but we are concerned for our children's long-term health. Any tips on how we can get this across to our parents without taking the joy of grandparenting away from them? Okay. It's funny how often the grandparent issue comes up. Not issue, I suppose, but the grandparent discussion comes up. So many parents now rely on grandparents to mind the kids because both parents might be working, and there's bills to be paid, so there may not be an option for one parent to stay at home. So we do rely on the grandparents quite a bit, and it's fantastic. It's fantastic for the grandparent to be able to help out and be in a position to support their children, and it also helps to build a good bond between the grandparents and the children. We would see many grandparents pushing buggies around the place, and it's funny, I was talking to somebody recently about running a grandparents program, which, you have to be careful in how you deal with that one, because you don't want to be telling somebody who's got a lot more experience than you about how to bring up kids. But I suppose it's a different dynamic. And in my experience, what can happen sometimes is that the grandparents have done the raising of their children, and they are then overjoyed to have the grandkids in their life, but they don't have the same responsibility as the parents. So treats may be more frequently coming. And as this question that came in, this person has said that they know that there's chocolate and crisps and treats and sweets and cakes and stuff like that being given to the grandchildren. It's a very, very difficult conversation to have, but I think it's something that is very important and that you need to kind of take control of, because while your grandparents or your parents are really helping you guys out, at the same time, the children are your children. They're not the grandparents' children. So it's absolutely okay for you to say, we don't want our kids to be given treats every single time they're here. Now, if your kids are going to grandparents once a week or once a fortnight where it's a treat, it's not something that you're relying on, absolutely you can kind of say it's okay if they have the treats. But if it is 2-3 times a week, it is something that you do need to take into account. So have the conversation, explain to your parents, look, I completely understand that you want to kind of treat your grandchild, but if we think realistically about it, if a child is getting treats all day, what can happen is then you get given the child in the evening and there is a sugar spike, and with a sugar spike comes a crash. So while the grandparents might love giving the treat, and it is a lovely thing, and they see the smile on the face of the child and all that kind of stuff, you're the one that has to deal with the crash. You're the one that deals with an irritable child at bedtime. You're the one that has to deal with a child who maybe won't go to bed because they're so excited and so hyped up. So I think it's really, really important to actually have that conversation, explain to your parents, this is how we're bringing up the kids, so they don't get treats during the week or they don't get treats every single day. So I think it's really, really important that you have that flexibility to be able to have the conversation. And if you've got a parent who doesn't agree, who gets annoyed at you, maybe they're not the best person to look after your child. So maybe you need to look at other options. And that's a worst case scenario. But I think ultimately it's really, really important that you have to think about your child's health. I would definitely think people should contact Foodie, Denise, our nutrition specialist, because she has some great tips that you can actually, for yourself, but also for your parents, give to them for alternatives, healthier alternatives for your kids instead of the normal sweet treats. But Denise's stuff is fantastic, so check out Foodie, Foodee, people. She has some fantastic stuff. But definitely have the conversation. If it's not something you'd feel comfortable with, if it was anybody else but your parents, you would absolutely have the conversation. So it's important that you still have the conversation with your parents. Okay. Hi, Jennifer. It's good to see you too. So you've been outside with your dog in the snow. That's great to see. I love dogs. Okay, next one. In the past couple of weeks, there's been a lot of news reports on children's safety online, especially protecting them from people they can't see and may not be who they say they are. What can we do to safeguard our children online, especially when they are not in our company? So I suppose this is a drum I've been kind of beating for quite a while, which is the importance of having the online safety conversation with your kids. It's as important, for me, I think, it's as important as the conversation around drugs or the conversation around sex. Keeping safe online. But also there's so many parts of that we need to take on board. So it's not just about worrying about predators, but it's about teaching our kids how to interact online. I saw a very interesting video yesterday where they got actors to act out interactions online, but in real life situations. So in a cafe where there was normal people there and stuff like that. And it was amazing how people jumped to the rescue of someone who'd been bullied online, but yet these were actual real comments and real conversations that were taken from, social media, different social media. So it's really, really important that we talk to our kids about how they are online as well as worrying about predators. So obviously, depending on the age of your child, you may need to have monitoring software on their devices if you're not sure about what they're actually taking part in. And this is something that I've had discussions with parents about, and they've said, well, what about my child's privacy and stuff like that? And absolutely, your child needs to be private. But recently there was a case here in Ireland where somebody had been contacting a 9-year-old child on social media looking for pictures and photographs and sending inappropriate messages. We need to take responsibility for our children. We need to keep our children safe. We wouldn't send them out into the world without being with somebody who was safe or in a place that we were safe. We knew were safe. It's the exact same being online. We need to take that responsibility, not to worry about anybody else, not to worry about what everybody else's child is doing in the school or anything like that. We need to take care of our own children. So talk to them about how there may be people online who aren't who they say they are. There are people online that if you share photographs with, they may not have your best interest at heart, even if you love them. There may be people who might share photographs. Would you want your grandparents or your parents to see what you're putting online? And if not, well then, do you need to do it? Because once you put it online, it's there forever. It doesn't matter what kind of privacy settings you have, it is there forever. And in the terms and conditions, what can happen is in a lot of social medias is that they own your photographs. They can use them for whatever they want. And the reality is, I think the statistics that were out last year were that 75%, I think, of content on child pornography sites have been taken from people's social medias, personal social medias. That's 75%. That's such a huge, huge percentage. And 50% of pornographic material is taken from people's personal social media. So we need, this is not about scaremongering. It's not about, telling the world that, or telling our children that, the internet is a horrible, horrible place. It's absolutely not. There's so many positive things about the internet, but we need to talk about being safe online. We need to do it. So I think it's really, really important that we have the conversation with them. We talk to them about that fact that we're going to monitor their devices. Not that we're searching up everything that they're doing, but that we're making sure that they're safe online. Let them know that if anything happens or anything occurs that they're worried or concerned about, that they can come to you and that you're not going to overreact. Because sometimes children can be afraid to bring stuff to your attention because maybe they found a site by accident. Maybe they went onto a site on purpose and all of a sudden they're seeing something that they're not comfortable with. The important thing is that we don't overreact, that we think about our child's safety and where they're at excuse me, in that moment. The other thing is talking to our kids about how they are online. So if they would not say something to somebody's face, not to say it online. There's a big push at the moment about online safety and being kind online and not, I suppose basically trolling people. And that's really, really important because we don't know how it's going to impact the person at the end. So we all have friends, slagging, banter takes place all the time. But we might say something that really, really hurts somebody. And that might be in the confines of a group of 4 or 5 people, and everybody laughs, and the other person goes away feeling less than. And if we found out that had actually happened, we'd feel bad about it. But what can happen online is that we say something to somebody or about somebody, and all of a sudden there's a flood of other people joining in, and there's no escape from that. Those people can't close the front door and leave that kind of bullying outside. It comes into the house. Then the practical things of making sure that our kids don't have tons of screen time. They don't need it. They don't actually need to be in front of a screen all the time. It's important. Society is moving towards moving away from books and school and stuff like that. So they're going to be getting screen time, like actual physical screen time in school as well. We have to look at what's the screen time they're getting at home as well. We need to take that responsibility. I will keep saying it every single week. We can't worry about the rest of the world. We can't worry about what every other parent does. We can't worry about what every other child is doing. All we can do is take care of our children. And when we take that focus, then what happens is it allows us that flexibility and freedom to not have to be worried about everything else. We can just take care of our kids. I hope that helps. How are we doing for time? Okay, we're flying through it. My daughter is sitting her junior cert this year. So for anyone not in Ireland, it's an exam a state exam that children take when they are about 15, I think. And she's becoming increasingly anxious about the exams in June. We've tried to explain to her that although they are important exams, they are not everything. We're afraid she will make herself ill and will become more stressed. Have you any advice on how we can help her get through this and perhaps develop this in preparation for the Leaving Cert, which is the end exams, the last exams that parents will, or the children will have to do? I suppose stress and anxiety around exams is something I'm coming across more and more. I'm getting more referrals from parents for me to work with their children around anxiety. So I think it's really, really important that we, one, have the conversation with our children around, okay, like you're saying, it's not the be all and end all. It's not the end of the world. There is pressures that come from school sometimes that, we have to get all A's. We have to do as well as we can. And that's a different discussion, I suppose. But I suppose anxiety is not working on a logical level. So by us saying to our kids, don't worry about it. It's okay. You don't need to worry about it. They are, because they're worrying on an emotional level, not a logical level. So they may tell themselves and in their heads go, this is not something I need to be worrying about. But they still get worried because worry is an emotion. But anxiety is an emotion of the future. So what we actually do is we catastrophize. We think about the worst possible case and stop there. It's about the reality of the situation. So usually the best case scenario is more likely to happen than the worst case scenario. So what we need to do is work on our children's emotions. So letting them practice mindfulness, calming techniques, that kind of thing. Making sure that they're getting enough exercise, making sure that their diets are pretty good, that they're getting enough sleep, that they have a good study plan that is actually going to work for them. Because sometimes they don't always have that proper study plan. So for a lot of people, sending your kids off to a bedroom for 3 hours is what we've always done. But that might actually suit their learning style best. We've got the multiple intelligences. There's a multiple intelligence quiz online. Loads of them. take them, get your kids to take them, and see what is their strongest learning style, and come back to me, because we have suggestions around what might be the best way to set up things. But I think working in short blocks of maybe 30, 40 minutes max of study, and then they come down and have a break. It also means they're more likely to leave the phone away, leave their device away for that short block of time, because they're not going to miss out on whatever's happening in their friends' worlds. So I think it's important that we do get them to have regular breaks. For some people, they're better off learning with other people around, whereas other people might need to be going for a walk, listening to what they have to learn on headphones. For other people, it might be being in a bedroom on their own for 40 minutes, 50 minutes. So I think it's important that you take that back. Then, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put in the comments a link to some exam stress busting techniques that you can do. So that's up there now in the comments, that you can help your kids in the actual run up to the exams. So the practical things like making sure that you have everything organised the night before, getting some sleep, not worrying about trying to cram in things, all that kind of stuff is there on that page. I hope it's of use. So look, we've pretty much hit 20 minutes. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed. Keep the questions coming in. They're really, really good and nice and challenging for me. I'm really enjoying this, and it's going pretty well. So until next week, guys, take care.